Welcome to Life by Design. My name is Erin. Let's get into it. So this is a different background than you've seen me have before. I wasn't exactly sure I was going to A, come back to YouTube, and B, talk about this. Basically, at the end of May this year, I had a mental breakdown. And I ended up voluntarily committing myself into a psychiatric hospital, not too far away from where I live. I tried to, I was very, very close to unaliving myself. It's the darkest time of my life. So that was a downer. I just kind of want to explain what happened to get me that low, and kind of go over my experience being in a psychiatric hospital in Denmark, and how everything has gone like that. Let's just get into it, shall we? I think I've been depressed for a while living in Denmark, being kind of isolated from things I understand. Even though I can speak Danish, read Danish, understand Danish, write Danish, there are still some things I don't quite get. There's like the subtle nuances that are I just don't quite grasp. And no matter how much I tried to say oh, R-O, I end up saying wow, which is ass, which makes every Dane laugh and makes me feel like an idiot. You know, breaking up with my ex-husband 5 years ago, and just kind of everything, being alone in this country. And I think the major turning point, though, was I graduated from my education in e-commerce marketing in January. My dog is here. She wants to be petted all the time. And I have been struggling to find a job. I have applied to, as of last week, 122 jobs. I've received 4 interviews, and I've made it to the final round on each of the interviews, only to be selected, have the other person selected because they have more experience than I have, because I'm really educated. So I'm stuck in that circle where employers want someone with experience, but they're not willing to give anyone that experience. It's that whole circle jerk ridiculousness. So I've been stuck in that. And I've heard from some of the companies that I've applied to that they commend me for, tackling the Danish language, but my Danish grammar, it goes either between going from the 9th grade level to the 12th grade level, so it's not very professional or perfect. Neither was my English grammar, to be honest. Not being able to get a job has really screwed with my self-worth. I have 2 boys that I'm trying to take care of. I'm trying to have a life and not just stick in the survival mode that I've been stuck with most of my life. And I can't seem to break out of it. And it's frustrating. Beyond frustrating. My hormonal cycle really screws with my life pretty bad. It's gotten to the point where I have to plan kind of my life around where my menstrual cycle is, because they are so extreme, and I can't take medication to make it equal. When I've taken hormonal medication like hormonal IUD or the pill, I get really depressed, and it screws with everything that's going on. I don't know if I've just have too much estrogen, too much testosterone, too much everything. The drops just drop really. And I've been working on this for years, trying to figure out and doing different things. The only thing that has worked was going on medication called sertraline 2 years ago. It's an antidepressant, but it's the one thing that's kind of helped level it off a little bit, but not too much. So, but yeah, my hormonal cycle just really fucks with my life. And there's been a lot of stuff the last couple of years, a lot of family drama back home in the States, and I lost my grandfather in February, and he was kind of like my rock. Like, as long as he was there, I knew everything was going to be okay. You know, and I barely talked to him the months before because I could never get him on the phone because he was losing his hearing, and the way he passed away was just awful, and I do not wish that on anybody. So that's that. I think just everything coupled with it just led to that dark point. And anyway, okay, so let's get into the trigger, the straw that broke the camel's back. It was the day I woke up and I was okay. I'd gone to an interview the week before and I'd been waiting, and I finally sent them like a message saying, I know you were supposed to get back to me at the end of last week. I know things can get busy. No worries. I just wanted to know if you've made a decision. She called me about an hour after that and said, unfortunately, they went with somebody else with more experience with larger companies. Although she really liked my ideas and my graphic work, and maybe I could be in something else. I said thank you, and broke down crying because I really wanted this job. It was the perfect kind of combination of strategy and social media and email marketing and graphic work, and the environment just sounded very much like me. So I was very upset that I did not get this job. And not too long after that, I realized that I had missed an appointment at the job center here, that when you're unemployed, you have to meet at the job center sometimes. So I missed the appointment. I wrote it down wrong in my day calendar. And so I called them and got a new appointment, but I think 45 minutes to maybe half an hour after that, I got an email from my A-Kasse. And A-Kasse in Denmark is your unemployment insurance. You pay every month to this A-Kasse, so you get unemployment insurance. So when you're unemployed, they pay you. You don't get unemployment benefits like you do in the States. That is called kontakte. So this is something you pay into that you can get. Well, my A-Kasse sent me a message saying because I missed that appointment, now my A-Kasse, aka the money I get to live on, would now possibly be cut off if I don't fix this or that. And I was already feeling like shit because of the job interview, and my kids were with their dad and his girlfriend at Disneyland Paris, and I didn't, they just weren't here, and they were off with my ex where they get to play family. And sometimes, even though I have a good relationship with my ex and his girlfriend, sometimes it hurts a lot. So just all of that, everything beforehand, and it just piled up to where I broke down. I had decided I was done. I had a huge bottle of ibuprofen that I brought home from the States, because in Denmark, you don't get those big bottles. You get 10 pills at a time, and you're not allowed to get more than 20 at a time, because they try to prevent people from killing themselves, or for unaliving themselves. Smart. But I had this bottle because it was extra strength Tylenol, because extra strength Tylenol works so well than the Danish stuff here. But I pulled that bottle down, and I was ready. Pulled the bottle down, poured a glass of water, I sat down on my bed, and I was done. I think there's only so much someone can take before you kinda just decide, I'm done. And what stopped me was the thought of my kids coming back from the happiest place in the world, Disneyland, to a dead mom. And I knew my oldest would be okay, but my youngest, he would never forgive me. He holds a grudge like my side of the family. yeah, he would never forgiven me, and I think that was the jolt I needed before I swallowed anything. And my first thought was to go to my friend's workplace and be like, I need your help. I don't know what to do. But she doesn't live that far from where my doctors were. And I just walked in, and I didn't have an appointment, and I just said I needed to talk to a doctor. And they pulled me into a room, and a doctor talked to me, and I just broke down. I couldn't stop crying. I gave her the pills, and I told her to take them away from me, otherwise I'm going to take them all. So now I'm going to talk about my experience, what happened after that. I ended up, the doctor called the psychiatric hospital in the town over. But then she ended up calling my mother-in-law because my dog was at home. And my mother-in-law, angel that she is, came and picked me up and drove me over there. And God, I felt so bad, like I failed them. And she was just saying that she was so proud of me for asking for help. And all I felt was like I failed. I didn't want to see my father-in-law, because that man has been more, in the 9 years I've been to Denmark, that man has been more of a father to me than I've ever known at home. And I can't cry too much. I have the wrong mascara on for that shit. So my mother-in-law drove me there, and she sat with me as I got settled. I didn't have any clothes with me, and I was on my period when it happened. So I also knew that the hormones are definitely a part of getting so low. And I get to one thing where they do like an intake where he talks about different things, and he has funny things like, do I see things that other people don't see? And I'm like, well, I recognize patterns like it's going out of style because I have ADHD. And it's just like, no, I mean, and then I stopped and I was like, no, I don't see anything that's not there. I don't see monsters or anything. You juggle a little bit. I remember that. So we went to a floor up because they didn't have anything in affective outdealing is what it's called. I think affective section, affective. I think it was called affective outdealing. So it's like the affected ward. Basically where you go if you have depression or anxiety. Some of the lesser degrees of things, of mental health issues. They only had beds in the ward for schizophrenics and manic people. And I wanted to stay in the town. I didn't want to go too far away. Because it was closer to my mother-in-law, closer to where my kids, because I wasn't sure when I was going to get out. Yeah, so I ended up sharing a room. It was like one big room that was split up in two, so I had to go through this other patient's room before I got to my room. It was all glass walls, which is weird. But of course it's glass walls, but they had curtains so we could pull for privacy and things like that. And the other patient she was a sweetheart. She was a sweetheart. This was like her 28th time being committed. She was just an amazing person. She had a lot of marks on her arms from self-harm, and I just kept thinking, God, those are her tiger stripes. Those are things that she's lived through and survived from. And I just thought she was the most beautiful and strong woman I've ever seen. But anyways. So that was the first day in the hospital, and I had to get used to things like having to ask to go to the bathroom and then having to wait for me. Because we didn't have our own bathrooms in these rooms, so we had to ask somebody else to go to the bathroom. And them serving me food and I'm used to like, let me just do it by myself. You don't need, it was just so weird, and I was so numb. I cried a lot the first time. I cried a lot and slept. I was so tired. And the second day was, and they were nice. I had somebody that would come in, a nurse that would come in I would have 2 each day. That was kind of my nurse, that if I needed anything, I would go to them. Yeah, they were just really, really nice people there. Really good people. I have nothing but praise for them. It was interesting because I was on my period when I came in, but my period stopped. Like, it stopped. And I was on day 2, so in my period I have the heaviest days on days 2 and 3. And it just stopped. And I thought that was weird, and then when I got home, because I was only in the hospital for 3 days, when I got home, like the next day after that, it all came flooding out. So literally the stress that I was going through mentally and emotionally stopped my period, which is insane. It's crazy to think that the body can do that and the mind can do that. But coming back, so there was food everywhere, and all I wanted to do was write. I had so many thoughts in my head that I just wanted paper and pen and just to get it all out. And there was a lot of patients there who had more manic mental health issues. One was coming down from a drug mental break. What is that called? A breakdown from drugs. Another was involuntarily committed. There was a different cast of characters. It was really interesting. There was this one man there who would just sit in front of the TV, then go down to eat, and then sit in front of the TV, and then go down to eat, and then just sit in front of the TV. And they only played like one Danish news station. Like, Jesus Christ. Oh, I remember it was some famous Dane died, so it was nothing but his funeral. And I was like, oh, good God. I was getting better on the second day, and the third day, I wanted to go home because I could start feeling myself get very defensive, and I wasn't feeling rested anymore because there were a couple of patients there that were very, not aggressive, but very demanding of time and energy, and I couldn't do it, and I didn't feel safe anymore. I felt on edge. I felt like a tiger in a cage. I had to go home. So I was only in the hospital for 3 days. And mind you, all of this is free. I did not have to pay anything for this. I have no idea what it would have been like in the States. I think it probably would have cost thousands of dollars. I think that's insane and crazy. Side note, they had this huge giant map of like the world. Or was it the States? I think it was just the States. No, I think it was the world. Just giant wall map of the world. And so they had the States, and they had like the big cities of most of the states. So they didn't have Lansing, the capital of Michigan, but they had Detroit. But Detroit was in Windsor, in Canada. And so I'm looking, I'm like, okay, is everything just shifted off? But no, that was the only one. Like, really? The girl from Detroit, That bothered me. Every time I passed it, I was like, ooh, ooh. Hi, puppy. Hi, good girl. What? What? So after the third day, I came home and I got a visiting nurse or social worker that would come. That came the next day or 2 days after I got home. And then he showed up for 3 times, once a week. He kind of talked about like, what's my plan and what am I doing to help my mental health and things like that. I had to have a plan in place before I left the hospital. Actually, when I talked to the psychologist, I had to have a plan in place. And I did. I wrote a lot there. And my plan was when I came home, I had messaged a few close friends about what was going on, and when I got home, if they could check on me. So I asked them to check on me a couple of times a week. I cried a lot when I got home. And I also got in to see a psychologist really quickly. It was only 2 weeks after I left the hospital that I got my first appointment, which was amazing. I was expecting to wait months. And I ended up being something called sygemeldt in Denmark, which is like sick leave, kind of. It was very much of a whirlwind, even though it felt like it was going so slow. But it went really fast when I look back on it. So, am I 100% back? Hell fucking no. So, am I 100% back? Hell fucking no. Am I 100% back? Hell fucking no. I have been seeing a psychologist since then, and it has helped tremendously. We are talking a lot about how I go into negative cycles. Almost like tornado. Negative tornadoes is how I visualize it. Where once it picks up on something, it just spins around and it takes all the negative thoughts around it and it just spins. It creates chaos in my mind. And my therapist, like, I met her 3 times and she was like, you are just very quick. She thinks I have a high IQ and I'm very smart, and that's like stuck with me for some reason. Like, it's stuck with glue for me because she's the first person that have said I'm smart, but I've never been told I was smart. I have, but not in a nice way. It's like I do something wrong and it's like, you're smarter than that. You should know better. Yeah. So therapy has been great. I highly recommend it to everyone to go to therapy. And my therapist, she's amazing. She can circle back when I get off track because I don't want to talk about something. So I will sidetrack to something else, and she'll make me circle back. She's very good, very good. But I still have bad days where I go really down. I've had a couple of really bad days the last couple of weeks because of the energy crisis, and I still don't have a job. And I thought I was going to have a job, but I don't think they will hire me because of the energy crisis and things going on like that. So I don't know. I'm still working on it and trying to feel like there is a future to have faith in, but it's really tough. And there are a lot of days where I know for certain the only reason I am here right now is because of my kids, and wanting to make sure that they have a future to have faith in. Like I said, I'm in therapy. I have doubled up my medication, so now I take 100 milligrams of sertraline, which is an antidepressant. I'm meeting with my girlfriends a lot more now. Would you lay down? Chunky butt. I've been journaling a lot. Sometimes it'll go in spurts. Sometimes a lot of times when it's just too much in my head, I have to just write, and I will write. Sometimes I write 20 pages and it just flows out of me, and I'll go back and try to I reread a lot of my journal entries, and I highlight and underline emotions or how I'm feeling or things I need to maybe dig deeper on and question a bit more. Very much going deep into myself and why I think the way I do and why I do the things I do, because the medicine has helped me be more reflective over my life. And I've been prioritizing my kids and my dog a lot more. And just going for and nature a lot more. I've been going on a lot more walks than I have been before, and just reveling in the awe of nature like I did as a kid. I'm just going back to that now. So that's a bit of my mental health breakdown in a nutshell. I'm not 100% sure how it compares to the US. Excuse you. Because I haven't lived in the States in 10 years. But I'm glad that it happened in Denmark, because there's much more of a safety net here in Denmark than there ever is in the States. If you want to follow along with me as I try to rebuild my life and build it my way, go ahead, click and subscribe, like this video, give it a thumbs up. I post every Thursday. I plan on it. You can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I'm not as active on TikTok. I usually stalk more than I post, but I'm planning on to post more than I stalk, but we'll see. And yeah, remember to live your life by your design, not their default. Hi.